Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a few days since we've been together with, this many people in one room because of prom and such. We did get to watch a movie on Friday on Monday, which if you were gone for both of those days, or one of those 2 days, we'll have a recap on it before we watch some more of it later this week. Probably Friday when the robotics kids are gone again. You know. So, last time we were together, we had started to look at some of the areas in the budget. I think we talked about charity, saving, and housing. And then we sort of left on that note. Did it ever give you a percentage on housing, about what percent that needs to be of your income? Write anything down?
I don't think we did.
Okay. So the recommended percent on housing is between 25 and 35%. Again, that's whether you're renting, that's whether you are paying on a mortgage. A lot of people will say, well, there's a house I want and it's going to be a lot more than 25-35% of my take-home pay. My answer to that would be, why do you need so much house? Now, absolutely, I understand different places, real estate markets are at different levels. We probably live just kind of in this area in one of the lower cost real estate markets that I know of. And interesting thing is that it's cheaper to own a home in Borger than it is in Stinnett. And I'm fairly sure it's cheaper to own a home in Frisch than it is in Borger. Because people are going to value land at what they value land at. And a lot of people are willing to pay more to live in Stinnett, Texas than they are, say, in Borger, Texas. I'm willing to bet Sanford probably doesn't run very much. If you're looking for even lower costs in the area. But even compared to something like Amarillo, the Amarillo real estate market's kind of crazy. One of the reasons why my mother has been on me for years, and she's always been like, well, you could always move back to Amarillo and you can find a job here and be closer to us and stuff. And our answer has always kind of been, for the kind of house that we could afford, it would freak you out because you'd always be afraid of the children going outside and stepping on used drug needles or getting shot or something like that, because it's a lot cheaper to live in Borger than it would be to live in Amarillo. So that's why we do. And we live in a pretty nice neighborhood. We wouldn't be able to get into that nice neighborhood for what we're paying. And we're not willing to pay more because we're just working on one income, and that's enough. Going down to utilities. Now, when my wife and I make our budget, we usually bundle utilities in with housing because for the most part, our utilities tend to be pretty close to the same every month. Electricity tends to be more expensive in the summer because we run our air conditioning more, and gas tends to be more expensive in the winter because that's when we're running our water heater and our furnace more. It is possible to get like all electric appliances and have electric water heater and like an electric heat pump instead of gas, electric stove, etc. But on the whole, typically natural gas is cheaper than electricity. Our gas company, they do an interesting thing. They charge us like a $17 a month fee for the privilege of being their customer. Even if we use no gas, we still pay like $17 a month. But then gas itself is usually pretty cheap. And so, it'll just kind of depend on where you end up. But overall, your utilities should be somewhere between 5 and 10% of your income, if you're writing out percents there. Now, looking at these utilities, some of these, I would make the argument, are necessities, and some of them are luxuries, and some are maybe kind of blurring the lines there. So you tell me, electricity, necessity or luxury? You gotta have lights, right? You gotta have some power. Gas? Necessity, yeah. Usually places will bundle water and trash. Like if you've got a dumpster service, the city will charge you money to take your trash and also charge you money for water. Would you say that water/trash is necessity or privilege? Okay, yeah, I agree. All right. Now we're starting to get into slightly more iffy situations. Maybe we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Cable? Cable's a luxury. Okay, internet. Luxury, in the day and age we're living in, is becoming slightly more necessity, but it is possible to live without it. There have been a couple times that we have lived over the last 12 years since we moved here, and we've gone without internet. Our first time was when we first moved here. We got a couple cell phones for the first time, and we had some limited internet stuff on that. Plus, I had internet at work, so we just didn't have any internet or home phone at the house. Another time, we were going between one internet provider, and they had kept jacking up our charge on how much internet cost, and really wasn't that great quality. And so one year, they tried to jack up our cost. And usually, when they call you and they're talking about that, you can usually convince them to give you a deal and say, hey, I'd like to call and cancel my account. And they'll be like, oh no, don't go. We miss you so much. We want you to be our customer. What if we throw in this? Or what if we keep this price low? And you can be like, oh, okay, fine, you talked me into it. But this one year, I said, oh, we're going to cancel our account. And this lady wasn't having any of it. She's like, well, okay, we're sorry to see you go. Bye. And I'm like, well, all right, bye. So then my wife and I are like, well what do we do? And so we decided to go a year without internet.
That sucked.
You lived. You were fine.
That sucked.
Anyway, we had no internet at the house for an entire year. We were just fine. If we wanted TV, we watched DVDs. You know, we saved some money on that. We had cell phones that were working fine for phone service. Right now, what we do is we do get our internet through the cable company. It runs us $65 a month, and that gets us like, you know, not their lowest tier, but like one or two tiers above that, where I think we have like a 800 gig a month limit on uploads and downloads, and it's pretty decently fast. We don't really have much lag at the house, even though we can be like multiple streaming and stuff like that. But we don't have cable aside from that. If we want to watch TV, we stream stuff. You know, we have Amazon Prime, and I think it's like $112 a year. And with that, you get free shipping, plus you get a good variety of like TV shows and movies and stuff. Usually either my folks or my wife's mom will buy us like a gift subscription for a year of Disney Plus. You know, and so we've got a couple different options. Plus there's a whole bunch of quote unquote free streaming stuff out there if you have internet access. Having said that, it's still a luxury, but it's a luxury that we have budgeted out and can afford to pay for. Hasn't always been that way. Now, what about phone/mobile? Luxury or necessity?
I would say necessity, because there's some jobs that require you to have a phone.
Okay.
Like, especially emergency, you could drop it or
Okay.
something.
All right. I would say it probably does a pretty good job of writing the line between the two. Okay. Now, let's say that in this day and age, you really can't get by without a cell phone of some kind. My next question is, do you have to go with like a contract cell phone through like a major cell provider?
No.
No. And the answer is heck no. Can you save a whole lot of money going through like a smaller company or through like a pay-as-you-go thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different options out there, more than there ever has been. I'm going to brag on our cell phone company right now. They're called Ting, Ting.com. And my family, what we do on Ting is it's basically pay for what you use. We pay $6 a month for every phone that we have, just to kind of keep the number. Okay, and so we've got 4 or 5 phones. I think it's 4 lately because my daughter lost her phone a few months ago, and it's probably mulch at this point. I don't know. But let's say that we have 4 phones at $6, so that's $24 a month. If we use no minutes, no messages, and no megabytes, then we pay $24 a month total. But if we use voice or if you use text, then they've got different tiers, and if you get up to a certain level, then they charge you this much. If you go above that, well, then they charge you a little bit more. Pretty much with 4 to 5 devices, my entire family, our average monthly cell bill rarely goes above $60. And that's not per person, that's for the whole family. Ting has got a thing now where they're doing unlimited plans, where you can have some of your phones be on unlimited, where they give you like unlimited voice, unlimited messages, and then like if you don't ever use cell data, then they don't charge you anything for that, and you're talking $10 or $15 a month for unlimited. Plus, they don't make you buy a phone on contract. You can bring your phone to their network, and they'll work with you. Great customer service. I know this sounds like a Ting commercial. This video is brought to you by Ting. But I really do love my company, and if you want to find out some more about it, I'd love to tell you some more about it. But anyway, you do have options, is what I'm saying. I would say, if you've got a company that says, hey, get on our contract here and we'll give you a new free iPhone 12, you're like, oh, shiny. But don't do that because it's not free. They charge way more than they're supposed to, and you end up paying a lot more than it would just be to just go buy a phone and bring it to the network in the long run. Well, I can't afford a phone right now. Well, then keep using whatever phone you got until it dies. And then buy a used one and use it till it dies and save. Okay? It's doable. Let's go up to the top here. Food. Food, we're talking somewhere between 5 to 15% of your paycheck. A lot of that depends on how many people you're feeding. Okay? If it's just you or just you and a spouse, then that's going to be on the lower end. If you start making children, then it's going to go up from there. Generally speaking, food includes groceries. Food also includes eating out or getting pickup, takeout, whatever, delivery. All of that's food. Now, between eating food from the grocery store and getting food from a restaurant, is one of them more affordable than the other? Yeah, pretty much definitely. Going to the grocery store and buying food there is going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Now, a point that Emily brought up, and I think it's an excellent point, is, well, if you're the only one, then it kind of doesn't make sense to try and cook for one person. It's really hard to just do one person's worth of food and not waste food. And I mentioned to her, well, it's the perfect opportunity to, get together, 3 or 4 recipes you really like, take one weekend, and basically cook an entire month's worth of food in one weekend, and then portion it off in individual bags and freeze it all. You want to get yourself a bigger freezer, I think that's a great investment. Are there certain kinds of food, even if you go to the grocery store, that are more expensive than others? Okay. What kinds of foods tend to be really pricey?
Name brand.
Say what?
Name brand food.
Name brand food is one, so it does not hurt you to eat store brand stuff. Store brand stuff, for the most part, is usually pretty good. Walmart brand is good enough in a lot of cases. Now, what was the other one I heard over here?
I said steak.
Steak. Meat. Dude, meat is stupid expensive right now, especially like red meat, like beef, pork. It gets a little bit better with chicken or turkey, even better with fish. But you know what's not expensive at the grocery store? Like hardly ever? Fruits and veg. Fruits and veg. And you know it's one of the best things for you for maintaining a healthy lifestyle and not getting fat and stuff like that? Fruits and veg. Okay? Now, I am not personally a naturally loving a fruits and veg type of person. I like my fatty foods. I like my cheese, I like my bread, I like my meat. Okay? But I can't afford to eat like that all the time. Plus, it's bad for my body. Okay? If you need animal protein in your diet, try sticking with the less expensive ones. Get some canned tuna. Buy a big pack of chicken breasts and separate them out and freeze them. Okay? But really start digging in and looking at some of those veggies. Like I was saying this morning, I have felt the healthiest and lost the most weight when I was eating for 2 meals a day. I was making smoothies. And my smoothies, what I do is I would toss in some milk, either, some folks like cow milk. I prefer almond milk. I just like how it tastes better. It's less fat. I'd throw in maybe a couple handful of frozen berries. You buy a big bag of frozen berries, keep them in the freezer, take them a cup at a time. Throw in a banana. Sometimes I'd either throw in like a handful of nuts. Walnuts, for some reason, when you blend them up, they make everything real like bubbly and frothy. It's really super good. And usually I throw in 1 or 2 big handfuls of raw spinach leaves. Because raw spinach leaves have no taste, and they are super nutritious for you. Lots of antioxidants, lots of calcium, lots of really good stuff. And it was green and it looked like grass, but you blend it up, you drink it. It's pretty amazing. And it's pretty cheap. And it does taste good. I think so. I mean, you can throw in things like a little dash of cocoa powder, a little dash of, my wife likes to use some cashews because they give it like this nice and nutty taste. You can really play with it. Do a lot of experimenting there. But definitely, you're going to be able to afford just, buying groceries and making your own food a lot more than you are even getting like, McNasty. And I know you can get McNasty pretty cheap. but it's gonna tear you up, and it's not gonna be good for your body long term. Okay? Clothing. Now, how many of you wear clothes? Let me see hands. Okay, that's good. How many of you are naked under your clothes? It's okay, don't be ashamed. All right, just me. All right. Everybody needs clothing. Now, clothing is not something that you have to replace all the time. I mean, let's face it, some of you may own pairs of underwear that you've had, since before Donald Trump was president. I don't know. As far as me, I don't own a lot of clothes. My whole wardrobe consists of 2 pairs of slacks. I have about 4 pairs of jeans. For the summertime, I have about 3 pairs of shorts. Some t-shirts to wear during, work time. I've got around 2 dozen, no, maybe more like a dozen and a half different collared shirts, polos, button-ups, things like that. I've got some of these shirts that I have literally been wearing for possibly close to 10 years now, okay? Because I don't do a lot of high impact work and my clothes last, okay? When I wash stuff, I try and wash stuff on lower temperatures using General Recycles so that they do last longer. Jeans in particular, I love jeans because you never know when they're dirty. And since I don't do a really hardcore dirty job, typically I don't wash jeans except maybe every couple of weeks, okay? Because they last longer. Okay, you can have jeans that will last years. This pair of shoes here, I got this pair of shoes back in May of 2014. Okay, so they're almost 7 years old. I mean, they're getting a little bit shabby, but I take care of my clothes. Okay, I think I've replaced shoelaces on them 2 or 3 times. But you want to try and buy higher quality clothing that's going to last you longer. Now, underwear, socks, stuff that sits close to your body, you want to have plenty of that so that you're not having to recycle those. Okay, you need to change your undies every day because that's hygiene. But for clothing, since it's not so much a monthly thing, what you can do is you can kind of estimate, say, what 3 or 4 sets of clothing. You can kind of figure out how many sets of clothing per year do I think I really need. If I think I'm going to need a pair of shoes sometime this year, I'll figure out, okay, a pair of shoes will run me $50 to $100 for a good pair. And I look at how many months it is until I need something like that. And I take it, I divide by the number of months, and that's how much money I'm going to stick in my clothing budget. And if I don't spend that clothing money that month, I don't touch it. If you look by some of these categories in here, I don't know how well they printed out on your paper, you'll see little tiny envelopes. Those are long-term funds where you can put money in every month, and if you don't spend it on anything else. Just let it continue to grow, because when you do need to spend it, that money will be there. Okay? Anyway, clothing, they recommend that your clothing budget be between 2 to 7% of your monthly budget. Okay? Not a lot. Because again, that's not if you are buying new clothes, new shoes like every month, it is not a necessity, it has become a luxury.
And you are contributing to fast fashion.
Some of that too. Really good places to shop for clothing? Keep it low cost. I am all about, giving old clothing a second lease on life. I love to hit like Salvation Army store. I love to hit Goodwill, used clothing stores like Amarillo, consignment shops. Stuff like that is great. Sometimes I find clothing online and I buy it used online. One of my pairs of jeans in my rotation of 4 pairs, I actually bought maybe 5-6 years ago. I bought it from the Salvation Army store for $5 because I was going on a mission trip to El Salvador, and I had always heard that I was going to do a lot of really gross, grungy work and ruin my clothes and maybe even want to leave my clothes behind. Well, I went and we didn't do a lot of gross, grungy work, and these jeans fit me really great, and so I've got a $5 pair of jeans that's lasted me 5 years. Okay? Somebody else's trash can be your treasure. There's nothing wrong with wearing used clothes. Going down to transportation. Transportation, we're talking 10 to 15% of your monthly budget. Now, if you have a car, then either it's paid for or you're making payments on it. I'll talk some more about cars tomorrow, and I'll talk about some of the witchcraft and wizardry that goes into never having to have a car payment ever and how freeing that can be. But even if you have a car that's paid for, you're still going to have to pay for gas for it. You're going to have to pay for oil changes or buy the stuff and change the oil yourself. It's still going to cost money. Occasionally, your car will need maintenance. It will need tires. Okay, your tires do wear down. Parts of your car wear out. You need to get new belts, hoses, plugs, fuel pump, timing belt, things like that, just at different intervals in your car's life. You want to take care of your car, same reason I want to take care of my shoes, because I want them to last me a long time and be reliable. Okay? Because if they're not, then I'm going to have to go through the expense of finding another car. But let's say you don't own a car. Let's say you live someplace where there's public transit. Dude, use public transit. You go live in a big city, take advantage of what a big city has to offer. Get a bus pass, get a subway pass. Uber. Nothing wrong with that. Walk, get a bike. Auto insurance. Now, auto insurance can be pricey. It is more expensive to buy insurance if you are making car payments than it is if you own your car free and clear. Because you are required to carry on a car liability insurance, which is just what you pay, or what the insurance company pays if you hit somebody or cause property damage using your car. The insurance pays for that. Them, not you. Now, if I don't own a car, then usually the company that I've got my car loan with is going to require me to carry full coverage. It's going to require me to carry like collision insurance, like windshield repair, all kinds of other stuff on it, which is going to be a lot more expensive. You don't have to have all that insurance. Okay? We've got in the house right now 3 drivers, and we've got 3 vehicles. Right now we're insured, all 3 of us on all 3 vehicles, which I probably ought to change because I think it would be cheaper if we didn't do that. But we pay every 6 months around $600 or $700 for just liability insurance, and it goes up from there if you're paying for like full coverage. So you want to be sure. However often you're going to have to pay for your insurance. If we know every 6 months we're going to pay $600, the math on that is easy. We sock away $100 a month into that fund. That way we've got that money there when that comes up. Okay. And if we can't afford to have, multiple cars on multiple policies, then we don't. We sell a car. Okay? We get bikes. And then the last one right here, personal. We've got all kinds of stuff in here. We've got medical, we've got health, we've got insurance. I would highly recommend life insurance be something that you look into getting, especially whenever you, at some point, start raising a family. You get married, even if you get married without kids, life insurance is a good thing. When you're young, then you can get this thing. It's called term life insurance, and it's freaking amazing. We first started getting insurance a little bit after John was born. And the first time we got it, I got a 10-year level term policy. I was, a 20-something, and I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't have a high-risk lifestyle. I was in pretty good health. I was a little bit overweight when they came and checked me out, but I got a 10-year policy that cost basically $16 a month. And if something happened to me in those 10 years and I died, my wife and kids would get $500,000, okay, to take care of them until they could get their feet. I renewed. After that, I think I'm on right now a 20-year policy, and it's a little more expensive because I'm a little bit older. It's more like $30 a month, and that's $30 a month I'm never going to get back, okay, if I live. But I'll be alive, and that'll be okay, all right? I'm willing to pay $30 a month for peace of mind for my family, knowing that if something did happen to me, they'd be taken care of. Okay? That's a worthy way to buy life insurance. Don't go with something like whole life. That's a scam. Okay? Go with term life. Health insurance, there are a lot of options for health insurance. For a while, you're going to probably be eligible to be under whatever insurance your folks have as a student or whatever. Once you do get your own job, a lot of employers have insurance benefits that they'll offer to you. But even if they don't, there are other options. There are options for getting your own insurance through like an independent insurance broker. There's even outfits that will do alternatives to insurance. We're on a thing right now where we do like what's called bill sharing, where we pay a certain amount a month to be part of the program. That money goes to this big pool of cash for all the members, and they kind of expect us to take care of our own medical expenses up to a certain point. If we pay up to a certain point because, somebody got really sick or had to go to the hospital that year, once we hit a certain level, then they kick in and they pay for everything. Okay? And in the meantime, money that we're paying in goes to other members who are going through stuff, and it takes care of them. Okay? And it's a lot cheaper than it would be for us to get insurance through the school. And then other things like entertainment, child care or sitters. If you don't have children, that's not a thing. Entertainment. Notice how far down on the list that is. Okay. You can do entertainment fairly affordably. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do cheap or free. You can take hikes. You can, there are different fitness clubs you can get into where you can go work out. You can swim. You can join exercise classes. And not only is that good for your body, it's entertaining. Depending on where you live, certain things are going to be more available. A city like Amarillo is going to have more stuff to do than a city like Borger or Stinnett. A city like Dallas is going to have more stuff to do than a city like Amarillo. But again, you're paying higher real estate, wherever you go to bigger states. So it's all kind of a balance. It really has to do with what's going to fit you. Personal, I think that's our last category. They're recommending 5 to 10% of your income for personal and medical and stuff like that. Now, this is not talking about bills. We'll talk about a really cool thing about bills. Let's say that something big happens and, you do have to go into debt. We'll talk about a really good system for getting rid of that as quickly as possible. But what I want to talk about now, go ahead and turn over to your next page there. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see, where is that? Yeah. Okay, lump sum payment plan. So, there are certain things that are going to be big expenses that you know are going to be big expenses that you need to plan for. Because if you don't plan for them and the month comes up when they're due and you haven't saved the money, you're going to be like, uh-oh, what do I do? And you're going to be tempted to either go into debt or you're going to be tempted to get into your emergency funds that you've been building for an emergency. You forgetting something does not constitute an emergency. And that is no reason to go into debt. So, here are a few things that are big expenses that usually aren't an every month thing. Okay? Real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, home repairs, that really only kicks in if you're a home owner. If you are paying on a mortgage, then those are rolled, at least the first two are rolled into your mortgage payment. Okay, when I pay the bank every month, some of that goes toward paying on my loan, some of it goes toward interest, but some of it also goes into an account called an escrow account. And they save money for me, and then whenever the city sends them a bill for taxes, it gets paid out. Whenever the insurance company bills them for home insurance, they pay it out of that. Okay. Once we have our house paid off, then my wife and I are going to have to start figuring out how much our taxes and our homeowners insurance actually is, and we're going to have to budget for that. Figure out how much it is per year, divide by 12, and that's how much we're going to need to save each month in order to not go into debt on that. Home repairs. If you know that you've got issues in your home, if you're like, man, that roof's looking pretty shaky, and within this next year I'm going to need to buy a new roof, well, you look and find out how much a new roof is. You get some estimates from some different companies. Put yourself a timeline on it, divide by that many months, and that's how much money you need to start stocking away to pay for that and not go into debt. Same thing with insurance. If insurance only gets charged every few months, then you want to be sure you're saving like 1/6 or 1/12 of that each month and then not touching it. Tuition is another big one. If you're going to be in any kind of educational institution, you're not going to pay tuition except maybe a couple times a year, but you know kind of how much it's going to cost, and so you can start budgeting for that. Stuff down here, vacation. I think vacations are awesome. If you're going to take a vacation, then you need to be planning for it long term and figure out how much it's going to cost you so you're not paying it on a credit card. Same thing with Christmas. Now, Christmas and gifts. Something my wife and I like to do every year, usually around January, is we like to sort of plan out our entire year. And part of that includes figuring out, okay, when are all of these birthdays happening? How many nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters and cousins and stuff do we want to buy birthday stuff for? And then we figure out, okay, well, how much are we going to allow per person? Usually it's not a lot, it's like $5 to $10. But we go ahead and figure out, okay, well, if we've got this many people and we're going to want to do $5 to $10 for them, like a gift card or something like that, we take that whole number, divide by 12, and we put that into a gift fund that we draw from. For Christmas, we've done this the last few years and we really love doing it. Instead of us doing what my parents did, which was spoiling all of us rotten by buying us dozens of presents and then spending the next 4 or 5 months paying off the debt on their credit card because they paid way too much for gifts that they couldn't afford that we never played with or we broke and got rid of anyway. What we do at the house is we figure, okay, there's 6 of us, my wife, myself, and our 4 kids. We give everybody like a $30 or $40 budget, and then each person writes a little list on an index card of stuff that they like that's kind of in that range. We put them all in a hat, everybody draws a card out, and whoever you draw for, that's who you buy gifts for. And you've got $30 of mom and dad provided funds that you can buy that from. If you want to get something above that, then it comes out of your own personal cash. And sometimes my kids do that. My kids like to bless each other. But anyway, like say I've got my daughter, then I'm shopping only for her. I'm not shopping for my wife or any of my sons. My daughter, she draws my wife. Well, she's going to be just shopping for her. And that way we're not getting a ton of stuff because Lord knows we don't need more stuff. We're not going big time in debt because 30 times 6, that's about $180. I mean, that's under $200 we can do the whole family for Christmas. Okay? And we can budget that out over 12 months, and it's even more affordable. Okay? So, does anybody have any questions or any comments at this point? I've been talking for a long time, I feel like. Okay. There's something else I mentioned this morning. I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah, like I said, I'll be talking more about cars tomorrow. How are we doing on time? Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead then, and I'm going to talk for a couple minutes about what happens when you do find yourself in debt. When, despite all of your best intentions, you have medical bills hit, or you marry somebody and they've got a big student loan or a big credit card debt or something like that. You love them. You're not going to make them pay it all off before you can marry them. But anyway, you suddenly find yourself with multiple debts and multiple creditors who are making phone calls and trying to bully you on the phone and get you to pay stuff off. Well, let's talk about how to deal with that. And this is a really cool thing called a debt snowball. Okay, see if you can find this sheet. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take a list of all of your debts, and you're going to look and see which one has the lowest total payoff. So let's say that maybe I've got a little bit of credit card debt. Can I write on this? Maybe? Okay. A bit of credit card debt. Let's say that I've got about $500 in credit card debt. Okay? Maybe I've got some medical bills. And I've got, say, maybe $1,500 in medical bills. And let's say maybe student loans. Oh, I've got about, let's say, $4,000. Okay? Now, I'm not going to be able to pay all of this off right now. I mean, that's quite a bit of debt. And if I'm looking at only making like, maybe $1,500, $2,000 a month, that can seem like a mountain. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see what's the minimum that they want to charge me each month. Okay, so let's say for the credit card, the minimum they're going to charge me each month is $20. Minimum medical, I've called and I've talked to the doctors, the minimum they're going to charge me, they'd really like me to pay more, but they're going to charge me, let's say, $10 a month. Okay, and they're not going to call in, loan collection or anything like that, as long as I'm paying them something. Student loan, let's say that they want something more like $100 a month. Now, at $100 a month, that's going to be 40 months before I get the thing paid off, right? That's a long chunk of time. So what I do is I figure out how much I can sock into my lowest balance thing first. Let's say that I pay my minimum on this and on this, which means that I'm paying 110 bucks, but I've got like a total of 500 bucks a month that I can sock into that. Okay, I've taken on an extra job delivering pizzas. I've got some money that's going to go straight into that. So in 1 month, I pay 500 bucks, right? No, I don't have 500 bucks to pay because 500 bucks total. So 500 minus 100 is 400 minus 10, that's 390, right? So I'm going to put 390 bucks a month into paying this dude off, okay? Well, in just 2 months, I'm going to have it totally paid for, right? So then check it out. This 390 that I was paying for this, I'm going to make it in like 2 payments, okay? Well then, once I've got that done, then after that, this next one right here, 1500, I'm going to be able to take that 390 plus this 10, and I'm going to be able eventually to make $400 a month payments to this thing. How many months is it going to take me to knock it out? About 4 months, right? Actually, it's probably going to be, okay, so 4 plus, the 2 months right there. So we're talking probably 5 or 6 total. Okay, let's say 6. Well, after I get that dude paid off, well now I've got all 500 a month that I can put into this dude. Okay? And 500 a month, after I pay these off, it'll take me 8 months to get those two completely paid off. Well then 500 a month, I've put in 800, well then I've got, maybe 3,200 left. At 500 a month, how many months will it take me to get rid of that? Take me 7 months. Instead of years, 7 plus, okay, 7 plus. So we're talking like a year and a month or a year and a half. It's all paid off. Because what I'm doing is, A, I'm getting extra money. I'm not going into more debt. I'm taking what money I can, and I'm hitting the smallest one first and killing it. It's kind of the reason they call it a debt snowball. You know how, like, if you ever seen cartoons, somebody's up on a mountain, they drop a little tiny snowball on the mountain. What's it start doing? It rolls downhill, and as it rolls downhill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it has more and more energy. And so by the time you get down to these really big ones here, that debt snowball is working for you. Okay. Of course, the best answer is to just not go into debt in the first place. Okay. To negotiate, to call and talk to people and say, hey, here's my situation. I would like to pay for you, but it's going to take me some time. Sometimes places like medical outfits, like hospitals, doctors, they'll say, okay, well, we'll go ahead and write off such and such many of it because we would rather have something from you than nothing from you because you went bankrupt. Okay? Now, if you talk to them, which is a hard, grown-up kind of thing to have to do, but it's something you got to do, then you get to a program like this, and you do the best you can to get rid of those debts. And then after your debts are gone, check it out. Well, I've got now $500 a month and no debt to pay for it. Well, then I can take that and I can go on to whatever my next baby step is. Okay? I can put that toward my emergency fund. I can start socking away some stuff in retirement. Okay? I can keep that momentum going. I'm done talking today. I think I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Any questions, comments, snide remarks? Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much for your attention. I hope this has been somewhat useful and helpful.